So I finally got a chance to go see the Neon Demon. Um, yeah, wow. When like to make a bad joke, when they said that like the modeling world is a doggy dog world, I didn't think they were serious about it. Yeah, so this is like another movie from the guy who did, Drive, was that Only God Forgives or whatever the hell? What is up with my hair? Um, that kind of thing. And this guy really knows where to like point the goddamn camera. He really knows like how to set a shot up. He knows like I think I read that he's actually colorblind. So, but he knows how to like, he knows how to fucking do his shit. It's very pretty. Um the slight downside with how sometimes he does his movies, all depending, is that sometimes it does move a bit slow. Like with Drive, it like moved a good pace. I don't remember that much about Only God Forgives. I just remember it. It's like you still had the pretty shots, but they were still trying to go for the whole like minimum dialogue thing, and so it was very much like get on with it. This one, they had dialogue and they had the long pretty shots, but like I didn't feel at any time was I like and there were a couple points where I was like okay, it was about to get to that point where I was like, get on with it, but it moved on. So yeah, this one stars Elle Fanning as like, this like new girl in town kind of thing, coming to LA from a small town girl with big hopes and dreams, like pretty little thing, and she's gonna be a model because she's so pretty, like, and so a lot of these casting directors and agencies and stuff, they see her and they're like, oh my god, she's the new thing, and like, whereas there's all these, castings happening, and they're just kind of like, the guy was like playing with his pocket square, like, while like this one girl who apparently like gets called back a lot is like she's doing her runway walk because that's how you do your runway walk. She's doing her runway walk, and then the guy's just like, I'm just gonna play with my fucking pocket square, and then the guy was like, yeah, it's fine, and like Elle Fanning does it, and then he's just like, oh my god, like that, like the entire time, just like, oh, ooh, ha, you know, um, the guy, fuck, what's his name? He was in like Ghost Ship and Joan of Arc and Dexter. He got really tanned, tanned did it for like Dexter. He was like, the known photographer that, doesn't shoot newbies, and he decides to like take a chance on her, and when she gets there he's like, take off your clothes and all that stuff, like all that kind of sleazy stuff that you kind of expect, where it's like all that shit, but they're all super infatuated with her, and you're kind of like, wow. But you're kind of fine with watching this kind of story because, again, it's shot so pretty and all that stuff. And, like, like in the beginning where when she meets, like, Jenna Malone and they go into, like, this party and they're in this bathroom, and it's like the bathroom is, like, so dimly lit, and it's pretty much lit by, like, blue bulbs kind of stuff. Not like, and it's like, what I mean? Like, anyone would just be like, is this an eye exam? But it's done really well, all that shit. But anyway, so, oh, and since, she's like, she first came here kind of stuff, so she's currently living in like a motel that's run by Keanu Reeves, so, yeah. Because when the movie starts, there's, like, there's like a title card sequence, but a title credit sequence, and I see like Keanu Reeves. I was like, where the fuck does he tie in this movie? Because I knew, obviously, like I said, I knew Elle Fanning was in it, and I knew Jenna Malone is it. But I was like, what? I was like, is Keanu Reeves gonna like? Is it gonna suddenly turn into like John Wick 2? Like, does that correlate? Okay. Anyway, yeah. So she lives in like this motel. There's this guy who's like her not boyfriend guy. Whatever. Um, he did like her first initial photo shoot, all that shit and whatever not. So anyway, because of it being like such, you know, a competitive, I was going to say sport, career path. So of course all these other same skinny, pretty blonde girls are like, who's this girl who thinks she can, yada yada and all this stuff. And I think like she's supposed to be, I think, 16, which I think is the actual age of Elle Fanning when this movie was shot. And they were like the what's her name, Christina Hendricks from Mad Men, anyway, was like, don't tell them 18 because that's too obvious. Say 19, and she's like, well, no one's gonna believe me. And they were like, yeah, people are gonna believe whatever you tell them. And it's like, oh, all right, you know. That scene was like, damn, that was harsh because she's sitting there and she's like, you're beautiful. Don't let anyone tell you you're fat because you're not. But someone's gonna tell you that. And it's like, oh my god, Jesus Christ. And then when she finds out how old she is, she like, goes like, I need a parental consent form. And then she goes to a receptionist who's like super skinny, like shaved head black woman. She's like, oh, parental consent form. She stands there and just like looks at these three other hopefuls in the waiting room. She just goes, you can go home. Like, damn. Oh god, I pulled my, excuse me, I pulled the power cord and we took a spin around my room. Anyway, so, yeah, so it's a lot of like that stuff happening again, like, just like I said, like his movie, so it's like that nice kind of soundtrack with the pretty, visuals and all that shit. And if you like, there are a lot of flashing lights in this, so if you're a little like, prone to like seizures and stuff, be wary of it. Be careful, you know. But yeah, so she does like her runway stuff and whatever, all that shit. And then, and also, so Jenna Malone isn't a model, she's a makeup artist. And Jenna Malone also, besides doing like regular makeup, she also does makeup on, cadavers, for people recently deceased, like, in like a mortuary, all that stuff. She does the makeup for them. And you're like, okay. Well, yeah, get your money, whatever. You do makeup on live people, you do makeup on dead people. Cool. Um, so, so yeah, like, at first it just seems like just, like any old movie, like the jealous girls, the new girl is, getting all the attention, that kind of shit. Like, okay, where's this going? Well, so, so there's this one part where, what's her name? Elle Fanning is like really upset and all that stuff and whatever fuck. And she calls Jenna Malone, who, would like put her, like grabbed her phone and was like, here's my number, call me day and night, do whatever, like we're buds and stuff like that. And she's kind of like cool because, she was like the first person, she kind of met out here, all that BS. So she calls her and she's like, I'm super scared and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay, yeah, come to my house, like, or come to my home and it'll be fine and yada yada. You don't know how she got there, but she got there even though she was scared. And you're like, Jenna Malone lives in this huge ass fucking kind of like mansion spot. Like, what kind of money do you get from doing just makeup, just regular makeup? Just regular straight beauty makeup for photo shoots. She doesn't even do like runway makeup, and then she does like, dead people makeup. It's like, you do make money, but my god, like that is like some trust fund kind of, like house. And even Elle Fanning goes like, she's like, holy shit, this is your house? And she goes, oh, this isn't my house. And she's like, wait, what? She's like, oh, I'm house sitting. And you're like, okay, So, she's all scared and whatever not. And so she, like, she, like, takes a shower because she had, like, all this, like, makeup and all this stuff from previous whatevers. And then she's sitting there in, like, this kind of, like, nighty kind of thing. And then, like, Jenna Malone is kind of dolled up. And Elle Fanning is like, oh, are you going out or something? She's like, no. But you saw her, like, getting ready. And you're like, wait, what? So then, like, Jenna Malone goes and sits next to her and starts getting kind of, like, touchy-feely. And she's like, whoa, no. And she's like, oh, I thought this is what you wanted. And she's like, no. And she kind of says, like, pretty much like I'm a virgin and, blah, blah. And she goes like, oh, no, it's fine. We're ladies. But she's like, nah, son, I don't want any of that. And it was just kind of like, okay, that was just kind of awkward. And then they just kind of go their separate ways. Elle Fanning's still kind of like in the house, is doodling around. And then Jenna Malone just goes on with her job, like painting dead bodies. So the corpse that she's, like doing the makeup on is like a pretty blonde. She puts the makeup on, she's like looking at this like pretty blonde corpse, and then necrophilia happens. She like looks at the thing, and then she starts like taking like the sheet off of like the autopsy table, and you see like the freaking Y incision, and then she starts like kissing the corpse, and I'm like, what? And she gets like on top of the corpse, and the corpse, and then like starts, you see her hand doing some wing dang doodle stuff, and she's still like making out and just drool like all over the corpse and just fucking it, and just, yeah, you know, I that happens. I'm just like, what is going on? Like the first, like the good like 2/3 of the movie was just kind of like, okay, just a story about this girl and her journey to stardom. You're like, is this gonna be some kind of like Black Dahlia kind of thing? Like, what's going on here? God, this takes a turn for the So that happens. You're like, okay, necrophilia. And mind you, the whole time she's doing it with the corpse, she's thinking about Elle Fanning. So while, like, as she's on top of the corpse, like, she just thinks to her mind, you see, like, Elle Fanning, like, side of my hand down places, like, and I'm just like, oh my god, that's, the dead body, ma'am. So anyway, Elle's standing, like she's at the house, that mansion house thingy. She's standing at like a diving board, and she's just kind of standing there. And then Jenna Malone's like post, dead body coitus person comes in, and she's like, "What are you doing?" Just standing there on their freaking, diving board. And mind you, the pool is like empty, like no water or anything. Dry as a bone. Jenna Malone goes into the pool, and it's a pretty deep pool. It has to be at least like probably like 8 to like 10 feet or something, because obviously if there's a diving board. And she's standing up there like, what are you doing, silly goose? Okay, not in those words, but pretty much it's like, get down for there. She says some kind of like thing. Then she just like kind of walks off of the diving board, and she's like, anyway, and then she's like, ba 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 ba. She re-enters the house, and as she like goes down like this kind of hallway, and it's all of a sudden one of the blonde girls from before just punches her in the face, and you're like, oh! All of a sudden, she's like, what the fuck? So then she's like, oh my god, she gets up and she starts running. And so she starts running, and then there's like another one of those girls that she ran into, and they're trying to go after her, and then all this stuff, she runs around, she gets to a kitchen, and she like holds a knife, and she was just like, oh my god. And so she starts backing away. So then the other girl's like, oh, this is not the only knife here, and she grabs a knife too. And so then they're like, and then she runs, and it's like, this freaking house is like, I don't even think it's a house, because it gets to the part where it's like, it looks like the back of like a really busy like catering hall kitchen kind of thing, where it's like the back room shit, and there's like the pipes and stuff like that kind of thing. It didn't even look like a house, you know what I mean? Like, it's like so big, it's not a house. Anyway, so she's running, there's a pretty red light kind of thing happening, because all that shit. So it's all, she's running around, blah, 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 and somehow she makes it back outside where the pool is. And so then like like the girls like catch up to her, and Jenna Malone's there too, like, fuck the corpse. And so then she's kind of like, oh my god, I'm scared, and she's like getting closer to the edge of the pool, and I'm like, oh no. And then Jenna Malone just like, without hesitation, while she's just like, oh my god, with the two girls, with the knives, and she's like, oh my god, and Jenna Malone just comes over and just pushes her into the pool, and just bap, and you see her, and like her legs all twisted, her arms like this, and she's just, and you see like, the blood just coming, and she's like, fuck. Well, she can't move because she's fucking all fucked, but she's like, oh my god, oh my god, like all that shit. And then cut to the two girls who had the freaking knives are in like the shower together. They're covered in blood, and they're like, oh my god, we're just washing off this blood. Jenna Malone's in a bathtub with like blood up to here, and she's just covered in blood, like she was in like freaking like Hunger Games, just full of blood. And she's just just like this, just like watching the girls bathe like themselves in the same shower, just cover, and I'm like, that's a lot of blood, like Jesus Christ, and you're like, damn, like that's some hardcore shit, like oh my god. And then cut to fucking like the next day kind of shit. Jenna Malone is topless and freaking like just like watering the plants because she said, "Oh, I'm house sitting. I'm watering the plants. Checking the mail, that kind of stuff." At first, I didn't even realize she was topless. I thought she had on this like because she also had like tattoos and stuff, and then like just the way how like it just looked like at first, like I said, like it just looked like a top, with like design. And then I was like, oh no, those are nipples, And then so she's like watering the plants, all that stuff, and then you see her get over to like the pool, and then she just starts spraying the pool, but then she like switches the nozzle to go from like a mist to like a power spray, and she's like, shh. You're like, what happened to her corpse? Like, what happened? What happened? Like, she obviously bled to death. You're like, okay, but then it's like blah blah, and then you see the other two girls who were like, showering in blood and stuff like that. One is just kind of sitting there like she's not part of the thing. She's just like there for a friend. She's like, I'm pretty and blonde and on this couch on this like super like modern uber like white and glass kind of like home, and just kind of like, I'm sad and pretty. And the other girl's getting done up, and there's like a third girl getting done up, and then they have on like the very, they're ready for a photo shoot kind of thing. Oh, before I go on with that, sorry. So after the whole cleaning the freaking pool thing, sorry. So then Jenna Malone then lays in a slightly shallow grave, which you're thinking yourself, probably that's where they buried her. Like, she's just laying there, just, I don't know what she's doing. Like, she's doing something. She's just laying there and just, like on her stomach, like, la 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 la, with her legs kicked up, but in like a, like, like probably like a 6-inch, like, grave. And she's like, bah, bah, bah. And then it gets to like the nighttime, and she's naked in the house. And then the moonlight comes in, and she's just like, ooh, bathing in moonlight, which seems like such stupid writing, but she was bathing in moonlight. Then she goes and, like, kind of sits down, but then, like, lays down with, like, the window is here, and then the window's here, and then she, like, lays there with her legs open, and then just blood starts pooling out of her hoo-ha. Like, you don't see it coming out of her hoo-ha, but, like, you see, like, like her legs, like, her legs, and then it's like dark, and then you just see, and I was like, oh, what is going on? What is going on? And anyway, that's when it then goes to like the girls the next day at their photo shoot, and like, all right, can someone answer this? So they're going, they're getting ready for their photo shoot with that guy, this kind of sleazy dude from Ghost Ship and all that stuff, and like, whatchamacallit, are getting ready, yada yada, and the two girls are standing there. Then the guy sees the third girl who's like, I'm sitting here sad and pretty. The guy's like, hey, blah blah, whatever, whatever. And then he goes, actually no, you're in the photo shoot. Hey, whatever, random girl who was there, you're out of the photo shoot. And she's like, oh, they finally picked me again. I'm important again, because the other girl, they got rid of her. So mind you, while they were getting ready, that's a bowl. The third girl who just came out of nowhere was just kind of like, oh, like, have you ever had, like, competition and blah, 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 and they were like, and the two girls kind of looked at each other like, yeah. She goes, yeah. They're like, yeah, like, what did you do to your competition, And the girl who's like, I'm sitting here and pretty, she's like, I ate her. And you're like, wait, what? And the girl's like, haha. And she looked at her friend, the girl's kind of like, and she's like, oh, alright, Anyway, so then going to the two girls who had the knives, yada yada, and they're like standing there for the photo shoot, and it's like blue ocean, pretty sky in the background. They're standing there, super skinny, pretty blonde, all that stuff, on like this white kind of deck, poolside kind of thing. They're standing there, and the other girl was like, you just see her kind of do that, and the guy's like, the guy with like, the photographer's like, you good? You good? And she's like, and I'm like, oh my god, what the hell's gotta happen? So then, like, she was trying to, like, and so then she gets back into the house, and she keeps kind of like, ugh, and you're like, what the fuck, man? She's like, she's like taking off like the complicated outfit because it's fashion. And she's like, and she's like, and you're like, what the fuck? And so then the other girl, the sitting there pretty girl, she comes back in and she's like, is everything okay? And she's like, and then she pukes and it's like blood, and then like an eyeball comes out, a bright, pretty blue eyeball. Guess what? Elle Fanning has blue eyes. And you're just like, whoa. And she's like, oh my god, like, they were like, oh my god, blah, blah. And she's like, ugh. And then she goes, I gotta get her out of me. I gotta get her out. And then grabs a pair of, like, freaking scissors and just stabs herself in the stomach. And it's like blood. And she's like, ugh. And then, of course, she's like, she's dead. Bitch be dead. And then the other girl just kind of, like, looks, sees the eyeball on the floor, and then picks it up and just goes, ow. And then just walks away and resumes in the goddamn photo shoot. And you're just like, the fuck? You're not gonna mention the girl just killed herself? Like, Jesus. Like, damn, I know it's a competitive, like, career, but goddamn. Also, earlier in the film, when she was having an argument with Elle Fanning, like, Elle Fanning's hand gets, like, cut, and then she just, like, grabs her hand, just goes, like that, and just all this, like, blood, and she's like, what the fuck? Like, she's like, what the fuck was that? Anyway, so this movie is about cannibal models, and something about, like, I don't know, bloody vagina corpse fucking full moon shit. Yeah. Like, it's an interesting watch. The story feels a little bit... I know it's in the horror genre, and god, anything in the horror genre is technically a little bit on the convoluted side, but wow. Like, it sold me because, again, it was shot so pretty, and the acting was actually pretty decent and all that stuff. And it's, like, kind of reasonable to a degree why there would be jealousy, and obviously, like, whatever, because, again, competitive career things, like, okay. But then you throw in, like, the fucking, like, cannibalism, and the murder and shit, and the necrophilia, and you're like, whoa! It's like you took two different movies and put it together, and you made this movie. Like, alright, like, fine, I'm sold. Like, it shot pretty, it confused me for a second, like, it just was like, what the fuck at the end, But if you kind of think about it, like, in the beginning, when she's getting her, like, initial photos taken by the not boyfriend guy, she was covered in blood. It's like, hey, guess what? That's kind of like foreshadowing, So, hey. But yeah, I recommend this movie. I would probably say it's more of like a matinee, just because it was just kind of like, what? But yeah, The Neon Demon. I enjoyed it, but wow. Alright. I didn't think I'd see a movie with cannibalism and necrophilia that was, like, outside of, like, the indie scene, like, the like, the movies in the 70s, like, some fucking cannibal holocaust kind of fucking shit. But anyway, The Neon Demon, bye.